stand on the cusp of the dawning of a new era. An era of personal action and responsibility. An era of initiative in saving the planet from a careless future. Our timing is imperative.
This is a global warming, toxic overload, ecological meltdown.
Climate change is a crisis of urgent and almost catastrophic proportions. Something must be done. We, Parties for Purposes, are a non-profit organisation committed to raising awareness of urgent environmental concerns.
This global warning goes out because the state of the Earth is grim. We know for sure that climate is changing, forests are being lost, water is becoming scarce, and oceans have huge dead zones. Because of all of our careless ways, the Earth will soon be unable to support advanced human societies. Yet we also know with certainty what must be done to maintain the human family's habitat and avoid global ecological collapse. As individuals and in our schools, businesses, churches, and other communities, we must use less energy. And if we have fewer children, consume more carefully, use new environmental technologies, invest globally in sustainable development and poverty reduction, and dozens of other perfectly attainable actions, then the Earth will be sustained. Ecological systems are a requirement for human existence. We must appreciate that the collapse of terrestrial, atmospheric, marine, and hydrological ecosystems is real, happening now, and are all symptoms of the same problem. Too many people are consuming too much while failing to maintain adequate intact ecosystems. Inequitable, unjust, and unsustainable economic growth, running rampant over ecosystems required for all life, is the disease. Climate change, forest loss, other environmental issues, poverty, and conflict are the symptoms, and each is amplifying the others. The world's protected areas, both on land and sea, are too small relative to the human enterprise. The problem with the environment is that we are experiencing global ecological collapse.
I try to eat organic, but how organic is organic?
I think that element of trust or knowledge about the source of food is quite important. It's partly the way it's grown and also the way it's stored. I think producers are much more careful than, say, big supermarkets about getting food to you in really good condition. And also because it's coming from the producer, you know that it's probably come off the farm, you know, within the last couple of days.
You know, we've got, I don't know what percentage of young children now are obese. There's no need for that, and it is the food that unfortunately comes from supermarkets, packaged and sold cheaply, that's doing that. And the sooner people can realise you can come to a farmer's market and buy good, healthy food at a very reasonable price, the better.
I think that we should be educating as many people as possible on the causes for things like global warming. Everyone kind of knows the word global warming and ozone layer and holes, and you know, we all have the buzzwords, but no one really knows what properly contributes to that. On a scale just of producing food or producing anything, really.
I don't think environmental pollution could be reversed because it's probably too far gone, but it can be controlled.
I do think that the government should be doing more for the environment. Those agreements are in place, but nobody seems to abide by them, and it's a constant concern.
Climate change, to me, I think to anyone who understands the implications, it's really the end of life on this planet. It means huge population disruptions, migrations, people fighting over scarce or non-existent resources. It's not like anything we've ever had on this planet before. The thing about climate change is, once it gets going, everything will go wrong. It's clear that people will not change voluntarily some of the things they do. They can do things to reduce their energy use, but if you look around, people burn more fuel in cars now than they did 20 years ago when petrol was more expensive in real terms. The fact is that the rising oil prices will eventually have the effect of slowing down our rate of consumption and therefore the rate of output of carbon dioxide. But in the meantime, people can make all kinds of personal changes if they just stop and think and go through a checklist of what they do in their lives. And, what can be better? Save money, save the planet, it's a bargain. Prosperity is so fragile. It depends on billions of people all doing their bit, helping to create a little bit more wealth on the planet all the time. When climate change can wipe out vast swathes of wealth, whether it's destroying cities or destroying fish stocks, turning areas into desert. In fact, all of us will just learn to live a different kind of life that doesn't use so much energy. The challenge is for everyone to rethink their lives, and I think it's happening. People are going for quality rather than material quantity. To be carbon neutral, plant 1,000 trees a year to soak up the carbon that you've emitted, if you like. First and foremost, use less. Secondly, make sure that what you use is from as sustainable as possible a source. Third, recycle all your waste that you possibly can. And fourth, reduce energy consumption and energy heat loss and energy waste. What would be valuable, I think, is if people had a way of actually being assessed. I'd quite like somebody to come in and say, okay, your carbon balance is +2 or -4 or whatever it is. You've got to do this, this, and this, and then you can get down to carbon neutral or carbon negative, ideally. Companies, quite often, they don't really know where they're going wrong. They'll do a check. How carbon neutral are you? And just have a tick box. How big is your house? How big is your electricity bill? Every corporation that has invested in studying its energy use and reducing its energy use has increased its profitability. Every single case history of that shows that you're better off doing something about it than not. And it's not painful. You don't have to invest huge amounts. Sometimes you do. But you always get the payback. And it's just a question of whether the payback is next year or 5 years, but it's always worth it.
We want to ignite the imagination of a careless, given-up generation. It is cool to care.